君にかかった呪いは使い方次第で人を助けることもできる。
もう誰も傷つけたくありません。
So recently I just got the chance to watch Jujutsu Kaisen 0, so here's my review of the movie and why you need to watch this. For those who don't know, Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is the prequel movie to the hit anime series of last year. To keep it brief, the series centers around a secret organization of Jujutsu sorcerers that exercise curses all over Japan. Generally, the curses are a result of negative emotions that flow out of humans, but just know that it gets far more complicated than that. So as someone who really enjoyed the anime, I was really looking forward to watching this on the big screen. The story follows Yuta, who up until now in the show has only been briefly mentioned as a very powerful Jujutsu sorcerer. The catch is that he's haunted by the spirit of his childhood friend Rika, who is classified as a special grade curse, which means she's insanely powerful. And because Yuta doesn't really know how to control Rika at this point, he's very timid and standoffish with others in the hopes of protecting them in some way. Now, the one thing I was really worried about heading into this movie was actually Yuta being the main character of the story. He was a big unknown for me, and typically I find very timid characters in anime to be written as, well, kind of very annoying. And as timid as Yuta is in this movie, I'm happy to say that he is easily one of the best surprises. I feel like the writer was able to find the perfect balance with Yuta feeling timid but not helpless, which is very difficult to do for a main character at least. He's a character that has a lot going on under the surface and who has also been through a lot, so it makes sense for them to be a bit standoffish, at least at first. But as he starts to meet some of the other sorcerers from the school, some that we're very familiar with if you've watched the anime already, he begins to open up a little bit more and we see his personality really shine. His character arc didn't feel super rushed, and I feel like they strike the perfect balance between making him feel empowered but also believable, which always is great to see in a main character. Now, if any of you have watched Studio Mappa's work in the past, you'll know that their animation is simply incredible. So seeing this on the big screen was simply a spectacle. Like, Mappa really outdid themselves here with the animation, and if you're able to watch this movie on the big screen, the animation alone is worth the price of admission. But the visuals aren't just a pretty wallpaper, it also brings plenty of energy to the story as well. The way it was all directed and how the camera dynamically moved between action sequences was simply a feast to my eyes. And this may sound a little corny, but honestly, this movie had so many cool looking shots. Like, it just exudes cool. It just has a cool factor to it, and it's hard to explain unless you watch it. This movie knows it's a good looking movie, so it's not afraid to hold on a few shots here and there for a few extra moments because it knows it's showing you something incredible. And I applaud them for that because it was placating towards the film's strengths, and the visuals were a very clear strength indeed. Now, if you're a fan of the series already, you're going to be happy to see a lot of the fan favorite characters return in this. And as someone who's also a fan of the series, I'm happy to say that they did a really splendid job with the vast majority of them. I especially loved all the scenes with Gojo and Geto in this, as they've set up something far more deeper than I first suspected, and it's all really good. Obviously, every scene with Gojo in it is a standout scene, but I'm really happy to see that a lot of the other sorcerers like Maki and Inumaki got their time in the sun. Yuta and Inumaki had a really nice storyline in this, and we got a greater insight into his character that we haven't really had a lot of up until now. I imagine it can be very difficult to give a character a depth who only speaks in rice ball ingredients, but somehow they managed to do that in this movie, which speaks to the writing. Maki also has a sizable storyline in this and has some of the best moments in the film. And I really like some of the quieter conversations that her and Yuta had together, as it brought out a lot more depth in both of their characters. And during all of this, Geto is lurking in the background as the villain, looking to make a new world of cursed energy users, and I found his storyline to be enthralling. Geto really is the catalyst in this movie, and what gives a lot of the scenes a heightened sense of importance. I think one way that you know a villain is a great villain is that whenever they're on screen, you have a sense of uncertainty, like anything can happen. Their motivations are clear, yet you almost kind of sympathize with them. I see a lot of Magneto in Geto, and I really like that villain archetype, and I think it's pulled off brilliantly in this movie. And one more thing that I wanted to add is that even though this movie is close to 2 hours, which is usually pretty long for most animated films, it all went by at a really great pace, which is not only a testament to some of the great writing, but also to all the amazing and unique abilities that we were constantly witnessing on screen. Sometimes a very unfortunate part of some action films is that the abilities of the hero and villain end up being very similar to one another, which can sometimes make for far less creative fights. Now, the great thing about this movie is that no two people's abilities feel the same, which not only keeps things fresh throughout the runtime, but is also what made some of those previously mentioned action scenes incredibly entertaining. Now, as far as some of the things I think this movie could have done a bit better, thankfully they're all pretty minor things. As great as the fight scenes were for all the visual reasons I touched upon earlier, I don't always feel as though the soundtrack lived up to that same level of energy. The soundtrack is actually at its best during some of the quieter moments in the movie, but during the action sequences, I never felt like it was elevating the material we were witnessing on screen. And one small other story detail happened with a certain character's abilities toward the end that I really wish that they had developed a little bit more, but I get why they didn't in that moment, as it could have slowed down the great pacing that the film had already established up until that point. I really thought that this was a fantastic movie, and the cons never really took too much away from the great film that they had made. So I'm gonna give Jujutsu Kaisen 0 a 9 out of 10. This was an amazing film. I know I said it earlier, but I have to say it again. If you have a chance to watch this movie on the big screen, I would highly recommend doing so, especially if you're someone that has enjoyed the anime thus far. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the movie review, and feel free to let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below if you've already watched it. And if you want to see more movie reviews, feel free to like this video and let me know which movie I should review next. I also talk about a lot of anime, gaming, and movie news on my TikTok channel, so feel free to follow me there. And if you want to talk to me live while I talk movies and video games, I have a Twitch channel where I stream every Wednesday and Saturday, so feel free to drop in anytime there. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. I really enjoyed some of the new traversal elements that they added into this game, like the pole caster that lets you scale the side of mountains quickly, and the glider that lets you get down from those high up places quickly and safely, which is much better than my older method of just jumping off high points and see if I could survive or not. That's a far safer alternative.